All right, in our further exploration of understanding After Effects, we're going to talk about the difference between solids and shapes. So let's create a composition from scratch. I'm going to click New Composition. And I'm going to go to Preset, and I'll just use HDTV 1080 29.97. So it's 1920 by 1080. Square pixels, 29.97 is video. Frame rate. I'll make the background color black. Click OK. Now I've got a composition. Now what? Let's look at a shape. So if I come up here, I click on the shape tool. I'll make a rounded rectangle. I'll fill it with the color. Draw it on screen. And that's a shape. All right. So the idea with shapes is that it's like Illustrator, where you've got something similar or akin to a vector shape. And I can use it for illustration or animation, but that's where it ends. Now, if I drew another shape with this shape selected, I would be adding on to the shapes that are already here. If I click away and draw another shape, we'll make it a different color, I'd be drawing a shape on a different layer. So I have a shape on layer 2, and I have 3 shapes on layer 1, rectangle 1, 2, and 3. And I can modify and edit each one of these. But that's really it for shapes. That's really all you can do with shapes. I'm going to delete all the shape. And what I want to do now is look at something called a solid. So we're going to go under layer and down to new. And there's all these really interesting elements. We're going to work with a text. We're working with solids now. We're going to be working with solids the rest of the course. Lights, cameras, which are fantastic. It's fascinating. Null objects, and the idea of a null object is that it's an invisible layer that you can attach elements to make more sophisticated types of elements. And what we want is called a solid. So it's going to ask me what dimensions to make the solid and what color. All right. So I'm going to make the solid black and click OK. So it's really kind of hard to, well, it's hard to see because it's the same color as the background. But let me see if I can illustrate this. Let's open up a picture. We're going to go to File, and we're going to go down to Import, File. And we're going to open one of those pictures from the Getting Started After Effects from Adobe, Import. So I've got a picture here. I'm going to drag it down underneath the solid. Now, what I can do with the solid is I can create a mask. So if I click into the layer and I draw a shape, any shape I draw will be a mask and allows me to see through it to what's underneath. And I can take that mask and I can have it subtract or intersect or whatever the case may be. Or I can have it set to add and choose invert. So I'm going to set it to subtract. So now what I've got is a knockout, right? And so I can do all kinds of really cool animations by animating masks. So let's look at the properties of the mask, right? I have the path, I have the feather, I have opacity, I have expansion. So let's look at the expansion. So if I click, you see I can take that and I can expand it, all right? So that's a really cool way I can make like a vignette. I'm going to undo that. And what I want to do is I want it to expand out, right? And we're going to do a little animation with a little vignette, right? So I'm going to grab that expansion and drag it all the way in until it's invisible. And I'm going to click a little stopwatch. And then I'll go to 1 second. And then I'll just expand it all the way out until everything's visible. And I've got this really cool vignette, right? Now, we can take the edges of the vignette and we can soften them, right? Let's put it where we can see it. And let's go to feather. And I can take that feather and I can feather that. So it's not hard edge. Now it's a soft edge vignette that kind of just fades out. And that's an example of what I can do with solids and with my masks, right? I can animate the path, I can animate the opacity, you know, I can do all that inside of my mask. And the important thing to understand is that when you create a solid, it's going to be up here in your project panel, and you can reuse those. Also, lots of times if you're doing anything fancy, when you get into working with an effect or a preset, you can attach those to a solid, and you can't do that with a shape. So I want you to understand the difference between shapes and solids, all right?